Good morning, everybody. It is the state of the market, but I don't have the fancy intro video today for some reason. How is everybody doing? Welcome to Option Pit. A little quiet opening. We've had some AMD earnings. Not, I thought they were good, but the stock didn't like it. Shopify earnings were pretty good, or Shop's flying again. But overall, I think we're kind of waiting for some more tweets. So today is probably going to look a lot like yesterday unless some trade deals get made. Also, if you have questions, on Mondays we do the ticker highlight show. On the weekends or during the week, we send out the ideas that we have. And those come email. Carrie says Reddit is cruising. I know I sold my Reddit spreads on Friday. I still own shares, but I sold because the market was down. That stock was up, so I figured, whatever. It's up like $20. I like Reddit, though. I think Reddit's a good long-term hold. And also, too, if you have questions, information is on the left. We have free portfolio on the left. Remember, we only put out the opens. So we do not put out announcements for closing ticker highlight show positions. That is called a paid service at Option Pit. So when we put them on, if I have the trade on and I close it, I will post the close. Whoever has it on, post the close. I mean, we update the portfolio every time we put a trade in. The picks are a free service from Option Pit. And then WA says, you mean we need to take responsibility? That is true. We give guidelines on stops to exit based on Lisa's pitchforks and candles, and we give targets. If I have the trade on, Mark has the trade on, when he closes it, he will, put it in there. So don't put the picks on if it is not that same day, because it could be closed. That is certainly possible, Will. I put I just put them on when we do the class on Monday. It's, again, they're there, and it's a free service. I think we have pretty good picks overall. But anyway, today, what are we going to talk about? So anyway, that information is on the left. Also, the replays, state of the market replays, I believe, are on the left as well. So if you like if there's some educational content in here you like, you are free to go and look at those videos. There we go. That's the start. Don't forget, check out how to use advanced knowledge trading from a theoretical value. Mark created that. That is up at the top. See the video. And what I'm going to do today here is we are going to talk about, I'm going to make you all floor traders. In 25 minutes, you're all going to be floor traders. So you have to put your floor trading hat on. So if you don't know, I was floor trader for a long time. SIBO, PCX, had my own firm, whatever. I've been trading options for 35 years. Do I need to make my own badge? Actually, I have my old badge here somewhere. Here's one of my old badges. I can't believe you know, what's funny is all my friends kept their badges, you know, and I was such a derelict, I just threw them all away. There you go. That is old. I'd rather be a chair trader. All right, let's roll the screen. Right. Yeah. I some of my friends, they have you know, because they were on multiple floors, so they got all their badges from all the floors and everything. But anyway, at least I saved one. I probably have. Oh, my mother has a couple, of course, because she needs them. Anyway, what we want to talk today about is hard to borrow stocks. And hopefully this is probably not that great of, I'm gonna make this slide bigger for you, because I think that would be more helpful. So there we go. All right. And do this and do this and do this and do this. Okay, there we go. There we go. How about this? And then there we go. There we go. So here's to give you basic. First off, if you know what a hard to borrow stock is, write in the chat. Say, hey, I know what a hard to borrow stock is. I'll answer all questions at the end. Why do you even care about a hard to borrow stock? What? Why do we care? Heck, if I was in China, I couldn't sell stock. You can't short stocks in China. They just decide, you know, we did that in the United States. You couldn't short bank stocks in the financial crisis. First time in history. Very nutty. So, one thing about hard to borrow is, from a model point of view, if you want to learn how to trade options, is it changes the cost of carry input to the model. It messes things up because interest rates are not normal. So what normally happens, how many people have bought stock on margin? How many people have bought stock on margin before? Okay. That comes out of your account as a debit. Does everybody understand that? They charge you margin interest. That's how Schwab makes money, Tasty Trade makes money, everybody makes money. Those firms, they charge you money to go borrow stock. Now, if you short stock, the opposite happens because you create a credit in your account. Okay. Now, you might not do this, but the rest of Wall Street short stock. It is an income generating machine to short stock and collect what's called a normal rebate. Okay. Now, it usually is. So Wall Street will charge you 5% to borrow money to buy stock, but they're only going to pay you 80% of that to short it. So they're going to make the spread. So they're going to have one client that wants to short stock, one client that wants to buy stock, and they're going to make the spread there. What happens is firms want to short stocks that are hot or have, or could be mining stocks, drug stocks, stocks that, have short-term chances to drop. And what happens is a lot of funds, firms, they take those short shares, and they're taking the book away from the firms. Like Schwab will loan the stock out, right? It's all a loaning process. You have to have the long shares in the clearing firm to be able to short. That's the way Wall Street, that's the way the SEC currently works. It is their biggest way right now to fine Schwab, Goldman Sachs, Morgan Stanley, and all the rest of them, because it's relatively easy to police. In the old days, it was a little looser. So when I was trading General Motors, like, I don't know, around 2000, 2002, when GM looked like it was going bankrupt or whatever, there was more shares short in General Motors than there was actually outstanding. How do you do that? I don't know, but it happened. The SEC got very upset about that. Anyway, so what happens is this 80% of the long rate rebate, it goes down and down and down until all of a sudden you get no rebate at all for shorting stock, even if you're a big hedge fund customer. Right? Because they can't acquire the shares. It takes work. So then they have to locate the shares. And what happens is it's such a pain for them to get the stock. Excuse me. Oh my gosh. That they're going to charge you money to short shares. At the very end of this, thank you for all the blushes. At the very end of this, there's something that's called it's a rig show. It's a SEC regulation where if you cannot locate the shares to short, your clearing firm, meaning Schwab, Thinkorswim, Tasty Trade, whatever, are mandated, mandated to buy your shares back in the open market. Now you can imagine if a bunch of firms, bunch of traders that were short shares, and all of a sudden they're all forced to buy them back. What do you think would happen? If all of a sudden all these firms that had shares short are forced to buy them back because whoever was loaning the stock, it's a squeeze. That is the definition of a squeeze. It is a mechanical market function. Does it have anything to do with the value of the underlying company? Right? AMC is an example. GameStop, an example. So what you want to do is there is a process, what I call like a cascade, but there is a building up process of, it's kind of like pressure behind a dam. Again, Mark launched Alpha AI on this concept. We need an AI scanner for short squeezes. Funny you should mention that, WA. Check the video on top. So what I want to show you here is this is a process that takes a while to happen. Right? Is Apple right now, let's say, a hard to borrow stock? Do you think Apple is a widely shorted stock? No, not really. There are some shares short, but nothing relative to the float. Some smaller stocks. So what I want to do is I wanted to give you the kind of theoretical backdrop or the practical backdrop of this. Does this happen every day on Wall Street, all over the place? With every stock that's listed, right? There's some kind of action going on, right? A lot of firms will have a hard to borrow list, where these are things you probably get them from Schwab, like, hey, you know, when you sell a call or something, you'll get a notification saying you might be assigned on this short call because of the stock is hard to borrow. Has anybody seen those notifications when you put on a trade or something, sell a call spread, and all of a sudden they're saying, hey, wait a minute, you could have some problems. That's why. Now, there's a thing here. This is how you're going to become a pit trader, right? Every pit trader had to learn this. It's called put call parity. Now, I cannot give you everything there is to know about put call parity in the next 14 minutes. However, I want to give you the tool so you can go do this yourself to see if a stock is hard to borrow. Okay. So how you set it up is basically calls and puts are derivatives of stock. So there should be an arithmetic equation to reconcile the value of the options versus the stock, wherever the strike price is, the interest rate we expect, and the dividend. That is called put call parity. That is this formula right here. So this is the value of the call less the value of the put is equal to the stock price minus the strike price plus whatever the prevailing interest rate is minus the dividend paid to expiration. Now, as a floor trader, we used to have to, besides knowing this, we would have to calculate this in real time when the markets got out of line in the old days, because the quotes were put up manually. So you'd have to do these calculate like all day long. Kind of crazy, huh? That's what we had to do. And that was even into the early 90s. My first 3 years of my trading life were like that. So what this helps you do is it helps you reconcile the value of a call and a put versus the strike. So think of it this way. If you can't short stock anymore, what are you going to do? What's the thing? If you're like, I want to short this stock, it stinks. And your clearing firm says, no, you can't do that. What are you going to do next? You're all option traders. You're option pit educated. You're going to buy some puts. If you're a fund, right, and you have capital, a lot of capital, instead of buying puts, what else are you going to do? You know, I'm Steve Cohen. I got $20 billion. I'm going to sell calls until they go to zero. So do you see the natural flow will be to sell calls down and buy puts up? Do you guys understand that? You're going to sell calls down and buy puts up. Now, the problem with this is what is not moving? Does the strike price move? Nope. And when you put these trades on, the stock price is going to be right at the same, is going to be relative to wherever the strike is. But the calls and puts can move like crazy independently because of supply and demand. You got a pickle. Now, all of a sudden, if you buy, how many people know if you buy a call and sell a put on the same strike, what is that equivalent to? Okay. That is called a long synthetic long stock position. It will act just like stock. Does everybody understand that? If you buy a call and sell a put of the same strike, one contract each, it will act just like stock. You don't get a dividend, though, unless you exercise the call. Now, how do you calculate where you buy the stock? So if I buy a call and sell a put and it's stock, wouldn't you want to know what price you're paying for the stock? Like, what price am I paying? How much? This is so crazy, all these numbers. So let's use an example. Now, of course, because I am a professional trader, I like to know all this stuff. I don't want to do any real calculating. I want all of my sheets to do my calculating for me. So with a stock at 1405, I'm going to calculate our September reversal conversion here, our September synthetic stock position right here. I'm just going to take this. This is my Edge Hunter sheet. Again, if you want the Edge Hunter suite of sheets, you got to subscribe to LiveVol. You got to become a professional trader and all that kind of stuff. But you'll be happier because you'll be super smart. You'll have all kinds of tools, or let Mark do it all for you in AI, Alpha AI. All right. So what we have is I have a call and a put. My call is 205 and my put is 260. 205 and 260 carrying 44 days to September. So what I'm going to do is here, and that is at the money is 14. So I got 205 minus 260 plus whatever the strike is, which is 14. Okay, that's going to tell me where I buy my stock at, 13.45. Now, if a stock is trading $14, 14.05, wouldn't you want to buy it at 13.45? How many people would buy stock at 13.45 if they knew it was trading 14 in the secondary market? Yeah. So what this says, what this sheet specifically does, is it tells you what the liquidity provider will pay for stock right now in USAR to hold till September. They will pay $13.45 and not a penny more. WA says ARBs won't let this happen. You are incorrect, WA. These are real-time prices. This is happening in real time. Why does this exist? Why can I go trade the options? A liquidity provider can trade the options, buy stock at 13.45. Why can they do that? Because they're doing it all day. People want to sell calls and buy puts. They're giving it to them. What's the problem they got? If you're the liquidity, right? They can't carry it. They can't short stock. They have to go locate it. So what I'm trying to tell you is these market mechanics help create opportunities. Does everybody understand that this kind of dislocation, and maybe you don't, again, all of a sudden I just made you a market maker instantaneously. How does it feel? Are you like, ah, it feels pretty good. Or wow, it doesn't feel so good. Or maybe you're like, wow, I'll sit there and buy stock 50 cents underwater all day long or 60 cents underwater all day long. That sounds good. That's what we call underwater, right? When you're buying something for less than it's worth. So, what this is these are how, or swimming in Maine. Okay. This is one narrow part of what we call a special situation in the market. And the idea is having tools. Do you think I want to still calculate reversal or these borrow rates in real time? So right now, the way the options are priced, the implied interest rate the implied annual interest rate for USAR is minus 35% annualized. So if you shorted the stock for a year, they're going to charge you 35% to short the stock. You better be right. You're certainly not holding it for a year short. But the point of this is I'm trying to give you that these dislocations, understanding pricing, understanding how these things work. And again, you're not going to learn it all in 25 minutes. You need a scanner. You need some kind of tool to help kind of wade through all these option prices. Check the video on top. Check it on top. Go look at it. This is just part of the nuts and bolts that go into it. Now, I will address questions. So USAR is a hard to borrow stock that is basically running, I'm going to call it around a 30% negative interest rate. So there is still active shorts in there. Now in September, there is a lockup that's coming out, and I think they're trying to short it into the lockup, is my guess. But they might get a little squeeze between now and then. Just saying. Could happen. All right. Now, questions here. People had questions, so I will address questions. If this was helpful, maybe you're like, this is so over my head, Andrew. But this is like, at Option Pit, all of the teachers at Option Pit, all of our instructors, educators, whatever, we're all floor traders. Okay. Or Washington insiders. So we've all kind of lived this for a long time. What is the regulatory difference from the clearing firm perspective between short shares and long puts? Says Sniper. The short shares have to be covered immediately. The long puts, you only have to provide the stock at expiration. So the reality is, if you're a long put holder, it's not really a problem. You could sell puts because then you have to deliver the shares. And then buying stock is relatively easy, right? So short stock has to be located immediately when you're in reg show. Like, you can't short it unless it's there. How do short sellers sleep at night? I don't know. What WA? I've been short a lot of my life at different times, and it got a little got exciting. Okay. I had a margin call, couldn't buy hood. Should I still buy further out or buy the stock? So Matt, man, I don't exactly understand your question. You mean you had a margin call because you were assigned the call, or you couldn't buy hood? I don't quite understand the question exactly. So basically you had to dump, you couldn't buy the hood shares, so you want to just stay long. In that case, I would just buy I'd buy a longer term call. Okay, interest alone. All right, let me see here. All right. I just bought your play for $475. If 35% is too high, what is the average carry cost to sell short? It depends. It just depends. What you really want, like once it gets to the 100% annualized, then almost like the stock can do crazy things. So when you're up at like 75, 80% annualized, remember, this is a progression, that negative progression. Normally by the time we rip. So just saying. All right. So what I want to do, if you want to see this live, look at the video up above. Look at the video up above. Check it out. I am done for the day. This sheet will be posted somewhere. It will go out with the recording, with the the recording of the video. Why would you choose to sell short versus buying puts? And you know what the answer to that WA is? A lot of funds don't know how to trade options. That's the short answer. Being a floor trader for a long time, I realized just because a guy was slinging 1,000 contracts doesn't mean they knew what they were doing. I am quite serious. Quite serious. All right. Hopefully this was helpful. Check out the video link above if you want to learn more on this subject and see it happen in real time. And that's it. I'm done. Have a good day. I am out.